The Mountain Goats are an essential band. They have been dropping amazing music over the past 20 years or so. I haven't even heard all of it, but the stuff I have heard is pretty damn fantastic. And yeah, they are just elite. They are elite. Even so late into their career, I do feel as though they're still an essential artist to be checking out. John Darnielle is an amazing lyricist, and he's always finding really interesting topics to be singing about. The problem I've had with them a little bit lately though is that musically they're not quite gripping me in the same way as they were maybe in the 2000s, even though Beat the Champ is the exception to that, because I do think lyrically it was that fantastic that it didn't bother me so much that maybe musically it wasn't always as engaging on every track. And this new album is kind of similar to that. Honestly, I do feel as though once again we've had a case of John Darnielle just being god tier and then the music kind of being like decent tier. Not a problem on every track though, but I do feel like the first half of this album does take a little bit of patience for me. Like, I'm not really that gripped musically up until like halfway through, where I do feel like it starts to pick up quite significantly. Similarly to that Crest album that came out earlier in the year as well, Guns, where like it ended off so strongly that I was just in awe of how good those last few tracks were, and yet somehow the first half just wasn't really there. Lyrically here though, there's some interesting themes across this album, dealing with like fantasy and even a bit of war here and there as well. On the track Younger, there is like an entire war scene being depicted throughout the song with John Darnielle's lyrics. John here is putting himself in the mindset of someone who's in that position of being like under attack or under siege, and it actually reminds me a little bit of like how Richard Dawson was doing that on his Peasant album with the song Soldier. An amazing song from an amazing album as well, and I just really like the way that John is able to like kind of put himself in the position of someone else and kind of write lyrics from that perspective. It's really interesting to see, you know. He also does this on the next track where he's putting himself in the position of being Ozzy Osbourne and talking about Ozzy Osbourne at his peak in like the 70s, probably 1975 to go after the title, where he's talking about how like, you know, he was caught up in all the drugs and like the alcohol and that rock star lifestyle. And the chorus reads as, "Tell the crowd to get high, I want everyone to get high." And it's cool that he's doing this because John has cited Ozzy Osbourne as like a major icon in his life, so I just feel as though he's just essentially using that icon here and just attempting to put himself in those shoes and pretend that he's Ozzy Osbourne for like a 3-minute song or something, which I guess plays into like the fantasy element of this album. He does a similar thing on the track Gooden, where he's in the role of this baseball player who had like this legendary season back in like 1996 or something. I don't really know much about baseball. UK people don't get exposed to baseball, so I don't really know a great deal about this guy, but if you're like a big baseball fan, you may know about this more than I do. But prior to this like legendary season that Gooden had, he was a free agent. He was kind of down in the dumps, wasn't really doing his best, so John has basically taken that like mindset and playing that role in this specific song. Ends up being quite a heartfelt song because on the chorus he's basically, you know, like talking to his fans, like, where were you all, you know, you weren't here to support me, and then here I was like a year later destroying the game and fucking it all up by being the best guy ever. Just playing with that idea of belief and just like losing hope in someone, but forgetting that person, you know, feels those feelings when people lose hope in them. I just love the way that John is able to do this, man. Like the way he can just put himself into the mindset of someone else and empathize with them and manage to just create an amazing lyrical song by doing that as well. It's insane. It's really inspiring as well, the way he does it. Cadaver Sniffing Dog is a track where he depicts a crime scene, and once again here he's referencing like veterans and war and stuff like that, so perhaps it is a crime scene in the midst of a current war that's currently going on. This is actually one of my favorite tracks musically because I just love the chorus on this one, man. Like the way John is singing on this one, he just has so much passion in his voice, you know. There are times on this album where he's kind of just not really doing spoken word, but he has a very soft delivery throughout, and it can get a little sleepy at points, but when he belts out those life-affirming choruses, it is very special. And that's exactly why I adore the closing track, Sicilian Crest. Might be one of my favourite songs of the year so far, this one, I think. I just love the grandioseness of it all. The larger than life feel that the track has. I just love that piano chord as well with the bum 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 bum. This is like the Rain in Soho of this album, I think, which was the intro track to the last album, which I just thought was amazing and an amazing way to open a track and one of the best songs of 2017. And this one is like the antithesis of that, where it's like closing out the album, and it might be one of the best songs of this current year as well. But yeah, it's definitely a good album. I mean, you could read into John's lyrics all day and keep finding new things to discover every time. And it would probably get a bit tedious for me to kind of run over everything that he talks about on here. There's lots of references to like wizards and stuff like that. Like I say, the fantasy element is definitely strong. I'm not really picking up a lot of things though when reading the lyrics. Some things I think I'm missing every so often, you know. I think the one thing that stops this album from being great is just that the first half, again, musically, isn't particularly all that engaging, but I do feel as though it picks up in the second half, and lyrically throughout it's so strong. Like so many of these tracks, even when I'm not fully invested in the sound of them, I'm definitely interested in listening to what John has to say. So I'm gonna go 7 out of 10. Probably not the best analysis of this album, because I have sat with this album for quite a while and I do keep missing things or misinterpreting little things here and there, I think. But I hope you enjoyed my review either way. Thanks for watching my review. Have a good day. Listen to this album. And yeah, I should listen to more Mountain Goats. I might go do that. I might go listen to some of their older stuff. Have a good day. Bye.